Hey, how's everybody doing today? Welcome back for the next episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And today I have one of my friends out here, Camille Rosales, with Hippo Insurance. And we're going to talk a little bit about culture and leadership styles and just all sorts of stuff. I don't even know where this conversation is going to go, but it's going to be a fun conversation. So with that, Camille, welcome. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what are you up to these days?
Mark, thanks again for having me. So I have been in the insurance industry for, I would say, going on 13 years now. I started when I was 5 years old, just joking. And, it's one of those things where I fell in, started in actually telecom, and I never thought that I would end up in insurance, but it's such an industry that's dynamic and growth opportunities. I am able to learn constantly. So it's been a great journey, just as we grow and I grow as a leader. I didn't realize that I would end up in leadership, but I always think about, I started in sales and I've been selling since I was born. I sold my mother on why she should get me a bottle, so I stopped crying. And it just transitioned into really wanting to help people grow. And I saw that that's where my passion lies, in watching people advance and get what they want in their career. And so here I am in this industry that allows me such a great opportunity to watch people grow in the contact center industry, but also in the insurance industry, as well as just, you see people at the beginning of their career, the middle of their career, and you're able to add value to them.
That's awesome. I mean, I just that preface for the rest of our conversation tells a lot about your leadership style. It's not about you, it's about other people and seeing how they grow and expand and find themselves really. That's one of the things that's really struck me over the last few years that we've known each other, that's you're being so authentic and genuine when you say that, because I've seen it happen with you as well. So well, you've had a very successful career, now that you're out of your teenage years, because you only started when you were 5, and so so I'm particularly interested in learning about this because at this stage in your career, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self whatever, what would that be? And how would it have helped you navigate your career journey up to this point?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. So I'm a VP now of our customer support organization and account management. And if I could go back in time, I would tell my younger self that the ladder is not a ladder. How you move up is really, there's different strategic moves that you're going to make in your career. And when you're thinking about that, it's not always a straight up ladder. Yeah. And when I was younger, I really thought about, what's my next move? I'm moving up. I need to constantly move up and move up. And then I got to a point where life changed. And I had children, I had a family, and I realized that that ladder looked very different because of my life at the time. And my priorities shifted a bit. And now it was more of looking lateral moves, building my knowledge, building my career from a side, taking more side steps along the way. Because I needed to fill my tool belt, but I didn't necessarily at the time have the capacity to keep running upward because I had competing priorities.
Okay.
And so I would tell my younger self, be open to taking lateral moves, be open to learning from others in their journey, and don't always put a timeline on running up that ladder.
Yes.
I constantly thought, at this age, I should be doing this. At this age, I should be doing that. And if I'm not here at this point, and that can be a very defeating mindset if you're
Hmm.
not where you are at that point. But when I look back, I was exactly where I needed to be at that particular point in my life.
That's interesting. You know, I've seen people move up very, very quickly. And I'm gonna be vulnerable here for a moment. When I moved up in my career, I had that mentality that you're talking about. Got to move up quick. I had to hit a certain level by the time I was 30, and you know I hit it, and I was like, what I didn't realize though, and this goes to your point of being okay with lateral move, I wasn't ready for it.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and had I taken your advice, I would have been better prepared at that moment for the moment. Um,
And
so,
that's what I do now. It's about the learning along the way. It's the journey, right? It's
mhm,
those lateral moves really, in hindsight, gave me a lot of the foundational pieces I needed
yes,
to be ready for the opportunity for the upward movement.
yep. And those, would you agree with this? Those upward movements aren't necessarily the ones that you're climbing yourself, but others are pushing you up, as opposed to you pulling yourself up. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree. When
Okay.
you think about promotions,
Mhm,
I always like to go into a promotion cycle saying that when people go into that room to talk about me, I want
mhm,
them to be like, it's a no-brainer
yep, yep,
because I've laid the foundation. No one should say, why are we doing this? Why are we promoting her? Is she
yeah,
really ready?
yep. Especially these days. I mean, there's a lot of peer interviews that are occurring, and if you haven't burned bridges with your peers and they're willing to go ahead and put you up on a pedestal, jump up on there. Because that says a lot about you as a person, I would say. um, not just as a leader. I mean, you're trustworthy and whatever. Um, you know, a lot of this also revolves around the organizational culture, and where you're at today. You guys have a great culture there. Um, and so what does organizational culture mean to you? And what are your strategies? What strategies as a leader do you employ, or do you look towards to creating that positive and engaging culture?
Yeah, I think culture is so important because if you don't create it, it will be created, right? If you're not
Hmm.
strategic in creating it, it will happen organically.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, we have a great culture, and it's really one that stems from our values. We have
Hmm.
clear set values that we live by, and I
Yep.
really feel as a leader, you have to show that. You have to live by the values, and the values then are part of your culture. And
Yes.
so currently, our culture is one where you act like an owner. I love that one. I'm not an employee, I'm an owner. So I do what's necessary to get the job done. And I'll tell a
Uh-huh.
story. When I first started, I had to there was some mail that had to be mailed.
Hmm.
And I didn't look for someone to do it. I said, hey, I guess I got to get this done. And I walked to the mail place and the post office, and I mailed it myself.
Yes.
Because as an owner, you would
Uh-huh.
do that. You
Yep.
wouldn't wait for someone to get it done. It's also, having good intent, like really
Hmm.
trusting that people are doing things with good intention.
Mm.
Um, so living the values really helps create the culture that we have. And when you talk to the teams and as a leader, you want them to see that they are looking up to you and you're exemplifying those values and you're exemplifying the culture. And I think culture shifts sometimes too, depending on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the time when I think leaders have to come back together and really talk about where is the culture today? Where
Yeah.
would we like it to go? And it's a fluid thing, right? It's evolving with your people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's having open dialogue too about the culture. And if we don't like something about it, being willing to talk about it and bring it to the
Yes.
forefront.
You know, now that we're out of our teen years, um, um, communication is something that I think as we become more experienced in life, not just professionally, we learn how to communicate more effectively. And so, when you mentioned about you know just having those conversations, if they're tough conversations, and being open to other people's perspectives, um, as being a part of your culture, that's so true. It's so true. Um, the other thing I like that you just talked about was, um, you know, and I'm gonna phrase this a different way. Um, Being intentional with your intent.
Love it.
Um, you
Sure.
know, um, because if you're, as you're bringing up the culture or defining what that culture is, um, if you can get everybody on that same page, your job's a lot easier. you know um you know
You said it, Mark. Because you can post on the wall. I've gone to different companies and I love how they have values on the walls and they have posters and pins and buttons, and but is that really the culture? Are they really intentional? Is it just a
yes,
slogan or is it really intentional? And I think that's the key as leaders, to really make sure that we are intentional, not
culture is
just,
not a mural.
it's not a mural for real.
I love it, I love it. So leaders today face a lot of challenges today. Probably, I wouldn't say more or less than what leaders 20, 30 years ago faced, but just different. um, what do you see as the biggest challenges leaders face today versus early on in your career? Not saying it was 20 or 30 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, right. Mark, time. No.
That's on my end.
I think the challenges that I see that are different from when I probably started my career as a leader was, how do you communicate differently?
Mhm.
I think as I think about my leadership style when I first started, and what it was a different culture. We
Mhm.
had the culture of, um, I do want to run up the ladder. And that may not be where our generation is now. I think there's
Mhm.
been a shift in what might be important, or how do they feel like they are part of an organization
Mm.
versus just an employee of an organization. They want
Okay.
to know that the organization cares about them, cares about their well-being, their mental
Mhm.
health. And so I think the challenge today is, how do we make sure that our employees feel connected
Mm.
when we had a point in time where we all felt a bit disconnected, right? How
Yes.
do we bring that connection on different levels? And I think about when I even interact with my kids,
Mhm.
that I can often get a quicker response via text message than if I try to pick up the phone and call.
Yes.
Uh, so I have to meet them where they are. And
Yep.
so constant, I think, feedback sessions and understanding and listening and meeting, those things are important,
Mhm.
so that we can build this community, where people feel connected. I think as much as we are so connected in the social media world, we're so disconnected from each other.
Yes.
So it's a very interesting time. I think we're all trying to figure out this piece. So I
Hmm.
think we all have to be students right now, and what we thought we knew and what, as leaders, what might have worked 10 years ago, we may have to take it back to the drawing board right now
Yes.
because it's changing and our generations are changing, our employees are changing, and the work world has changed. So if
Definitely.
anything, I will tell it, people are at this point, this is the moment of change. And if you are not willing to change with the environment, you as a leader, it'll be very difficult.
Yeah. I think, you know, I think as you mentioned, I mean, you could be honestly, you could be in the same room with your kids and they're still going to expect a text message rather than you talking to them, you know. And I like the your thought there of meeting people where they want to be in order to be communicated with. And each person is going to want to be communicated in a different way, shape, or form. And we as leaders have to adapt our style to them. Um, I know that, or I would say probably when we started off in our careers as early leaders, it was, hey, this is one of the questions you always got in an interview. What's your leadership style?
Yep.
Okay, and your leadership style was, okay, this is going to be it had to align with the leadership style of those above you or complement the leadership style, but at the end of the day you were expected to set the tone, so to speak, for your team. And that's not a question you hear a lot.
No,
um, you know it's more in how do you communicate, how do you interact, how do you engage. It's not about having a defined leadership style. um, you know
I, I think that it will become rigid if you have this defined style. And
yeah.
then you'll meet that new employee that will challenge your style that you thought that was so baked and perfect.
Yes. And you know this about me. I have a 5-year old. And I will tell you, as someone at my age having a 5-year old, you get that challenges from the time it wakes up in the morning. You think you know the way things are going to go, and it ain't going that way.
So true. And I think you hit the nail with talking about kids. I have two polar opposites, right?
Yep.
One child that communicates very well and
Hmm.
is going to tell you exactly how she feels emotionally. And I have
Yep.
another child that comes and says, I need time to process the information that you've given me.
Hmm.
I will come back once I've processed that.
Yes.
So always
And as
having to shift my leadership style.
and as a parent, you want to reach out and say, look, I'll give you about 30 seconds to process.
Figure it out because
uh,
I'm the leader, right? I'm the leader here.
exactly. uh, um, so you and I have talked a little bit about changing environments, and people are at, I mean, you look out there on LinkedIn, or read the papers or the TV, and there's a lot of people that are at those inflection points in their career, decision points. What do I do? Where do I go? I was just in a comfortable situation, and now that situation is no longer there. What would be your top recommendations for folks who might consider themselves at a decision or an inflection point in their career?
You know, you're right. I always think about my career has taken so many turns.
Hmm.
I I started out thinking I was going to be a psychologist. I have a degree in
Okay.
psychology, and got
Nice.
it. yeah, I was like, I'm going to do this. And I graduated and I couldn't find a job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I said, I'm going to have to pivot. I'm going to have to do something else.
Yep.
And I always say I came out of school in that era where it was the dot-com bubble had burst. Our
Mm-hmm.
economy was really bad. And I fell into the telecom industry of sales. And I never
Yep.
thought I'd be in a true sales role.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was doing that, I then entered another part of the economy where we went through the 2008 recession.
Yep.
And in that recessionary period, I was in a role that people weren't increasing their headcount and increasing their sales, they were decreasing sales.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another point in my career where I had to make a pivot and a change.
Yep.
And I at the time thought about I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
started to speak to my circle, and the different people gave me different ideas. So I really opened up. I was vulnerable because at that time it was very difficult to really tell people that I was going through a struggle where I didn't know if I was going to have a job. I
Yep.
didn't know if I was going to be able to make my mortgage payment because I just bought a house.
Mm.
For people, I say, you got to open up and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I spoke to someone in the insurance industry, and they said to me, and as my husband, he says, "Have you thought about going into an insurance?" And I said, I could sell salt to a slug.
Yep.
And I entered this industry, and I didn't know that it would lead to a 13-year career.
Yes.
Um, but in those moments, I still stayed open to what changes might come and being
Mm-hmm.
kind of knowing what's going on in the industry and what's going on in the streets and constantly investing in my own knowledge.
Yep.
I think reading and listening to podcasts and listening to audibles and constantly being abreast to what's happening, educating ourselves is so important. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a piece as leaders I think we miss. We
Yeah.
pour a lot of resources into the people we lead, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we forget about ourselves and we don't
Yes.
pour enough resources into our knowledge bank. And so for people out there, I think that are going through these struggling times, I would say a couple of things: open up your network and be vulnerable and honest. You would be surprised what opportunities someone has when they know your story.
Yes.
The second thing I would say is continue to feed your brain, feed your bucket, fill your bucket while you're waiting for that opportunity to come.
Mm-hmm.
And then be open to something different
Yes.
because it may not come in the outfit that you thought it was going to come in.
I love that. Um, a a good friend of mine, who I had the privilege of working for, and we like to call it working with, used to tell me it may not be on your time or my time, but it will always be on time, you
There
know,
it is.
and whether it was a promotion or an opportunity or something in your personal life, you just don't, I love the way that you kind of described. Always be preparing yourself for whatever is down the road from you, and I have another friend that says always, your net worth is your network.
Exactly.
Okay, you know.
Because sometimes you don't know the opportunities that your friends may know or your
Yes.
network know,
Yep.
or 6 degrees of separation. I totally am a proponent. It, I've seen people and met people, and I've said, "Did you know this person?" They know that person and that person and that
Hmm.
person. Yeah, it's open up.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable.
It's funny. Earlier today, somebody texted me, say, "Hey, do you know somebody that can do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this person right here." Boom, 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 and they're talking right now. You know, and it's like, and I think being open with being vulnerable with your network goes two ways, because you should never expect something back in return. You know, it's all about the relationship, and um not it should never be transactional. you know
Exactly.
you know and that's so important, especially if someone views you as only being transactional, you're only in it for you. you know they're not going to remember you
No,
in the way that you want to be remembered. So
it's so true. And then they really don't feel like they're part of your network. They just
yep,
feel as someone that you are leveraging. No one should feel leveraged.
exactly. So any speaking of networking, any tips on how leaders or aspiring leaders, someone that's just starting out in their career, can create a professional development opportunities for themselves, or networking opportunities for themselves? Any recommendations?
So first, I'm going to plug, of course, ACCA. It's being a part of going out there and finding organizations with people that you feel you can add value to their life and they can add value to your life. That's to me, the first step.
Okay.
I always think about mentorship. So being a mentor has definitely benefited me,
Hmm.
as well as I believe the mentees I've worked with. I've learned so much from them, and I believe
Hmm.
that they learned from me as well. And so I think creating, there's so many platforms out there where you can be a mentor to someone. Um, Again, joining boards like this one was a great opportunity for me that you came, Mark, and I thank you for that, to just come and present that. I had never even thought about this opportunity. And just learning from and growing with the group has been beneficial for me as a leader. So I would say go out there and find organizations that you can add value to, and
Hmm.
you will gain some type of value from them.
Yeah, I love that. And honestly, reaching out to you was one of the easiest decisions that we made, because your passion and your energy level and your experience made it such an easy you were such an easy fit for the organization, Austin Contact Center Alliance, because you had the experience, the real world experience that we needed as an organization. And um, so you were already bringing a lot of value into us, and we were hoping to match the level of value that we were bringing to you. And because it's all about the relationships. And so thank you very much for joining our ACCA board. Shameless plug for the Austin Contact Center Alliance, but I think you bring up a great point about whether you're in product management, or whether you're in insurance sales, or whatever your chosen career path is. To your point, find a local group. It doesn't have to be online. It could be actually meetups that happen all the time, of folks in your industry that you can just either commiserate with, share best practices with, whatever the case may be. And it's so important to just have those open ears available to you. you know
And be open to giving some time. And
yes.
that's, I understand our time is valuable, but you're going to gain a lot.
Yep. Yep. Our time is valuable, and the folks that we're working with, their time is just as valuable. They wouldn't reach out to you if they didn't feel you could offer value to them, and they could offer something back in return. Value is such a two-way street, and it's so underrated, in my humble opinion. So,
You're spot on with that one.
um, um, so we've gotten to the point of our conversation of this episode where I'd like to call it the speed round. Are you
Yes,
ready for this?
I'm ready.
Excellent, excellent. So, Camille, what fact about you would people be most surprised to learn about you?
Ooh, most surprised that I am a huge proponent and lover of candy and anything sweet. I
Nice.
love sweet things. It is my guilty pleasure.
Yes.
And if I could bake, that's what I
Uh,
would do. I would bake beautiful cakes, but I'd
yes.
but I'd probably eat them. So that's the problem. I'd eat them.
A little birdie said that we may have some lemon bars in our near future. So,
I can't wait. I can't wait. It's my guilty.
excellent. So, after you've had a stressful day and working as an executive in a call center or in the insurance industry, you don't have stressful days, do you?
Oh
No,
no,
no.
it's stressful minutes.
There you go. There you go. So after a stressful day, what's your go-to tactic for unwinding?
And this is okay. So this is where I'm going to nerd out a little bit.
Okay.
It is really listening to a book that has nothing to do with what I do. And it may be something like a Stephen King novel because it is so out there and it has nothing to do with my world. And
I
so
like
I'm
it.
really big on the anything, supernatural, anything like heroes, superheroes, anything related to
I like
really
it.
this nerdy. If I had superpowers, I'd be I love those type of things. Anything that's non-related to the real reality.
So I'm going to piggyback off that since you brought in the topic of superpowers. What is your superpower?
I always tell people this, and I know I sound crazy when I tell them.
Uh-huh.
I have a power that people will open up to me
Uh-huh.
and tell random strangers. I have been on New York City Transit, and a stranger will just talk to me as if we've known each other for 10 years.
Nice.
I don't know. I've never quite been able to explain it, but people feel open when they come around me. And I think that's honestly my superpower, my gift,
Hmm.
that I make people feel very comfortable.
One of the things that I've always that I've seen about you and I can really appreciate is you are very approachable. Um, I don't think you've ever met a stranger, in my opinion.
My kids, they say that all the time. Mom, please stop talking to the strangers. We have to go. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. So this has been a great conversation, Camille, and I so appreciate the generosity of your time today. If somebody wants to pick your brain, about leadership, about opportunities, within your organization, um, you know, they just have a burning issue that they're like, man, I wish I could have an approachable person in my network that I can talk to. Um, how can they any events that you might be attending here soon? How can they contact you?
So they could always contact me on LinkedIn. All my information is typically there.
Okay.
I will be at a conference in October in Nashville, Tennessee for a company called Replicant. I'll be at
Okay.
their Solve conference,
Okay.
just learning more about AI and how that can continue to be a part of our contact center.
Excellent.
Also, yeah, just reach out. I am a big believer that I love to share my story. And if I can help someone and my story, whatever I've gone through is really never for me, it's to
Yeah.
help someone else. And so if I can provide any type of information or contact or connection, I'm willing. So please reach out via LinkedIn. That'd be great.
Excellent. If anybody wants an introduction, please not for salesy purposes, because I hate doing that to folks in my network. Um, unless there's a natural, fit or something. But if you just want to try and sell Camille something, don't reach out to her. Don't reach out to me. But if you're truly wanting to learn something from her, sorry, I'm protective of you in that way.
Thank you, Mark.
um, if there's you want a virtual introduction, I'd be more than happy to go ahead and help facilitate that as well. If somebody's unsure, is Camille really all that she came across? Yeah, she's that and more. Um, and so, yeah, definitely, connect with her on LinkedIn. I'll do an intro if you're more comfortable that way, and you're also going to be at the Austin Contact Center Alliance Fall Symposium.
I'll be at the symposium in September.
Excellent.
It'll be a great opportunity also to connect with other leaders in the Austin area. I'm so looking forward to the opportunity. I'm actually going to be hosting one of the panels, the DE&I panel.
Excellent.
And last year was amazing, and I'm just looking forward to this year.
Well, we're actually going worldwide this year, where we have folks coming over from Australia to actually participate. Again. So we're this is the ACCA event. I know this isn't about ACCA, but I mean it's really because of leaders like yourself. I mean, we've really the organization has really come up with a really good plan for this year, and leaning into the things that are really important, I think, for the industry. So and plus, you're going to have some of your team there, so come by and stop by and meet Camille in person. So
that I would love to meet. These are the times when, as a leader, you get to, again, I will be at some sessions learning things. I'm pouring into myself, but I'm also able to share. So it's going to be a great event, Mark.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all you do on a daily basis. I think your company might be hiring some folks.
We are always looking for great talent, and they can always visit our website and see what we have as an opening. You're always looking for talent, right? It's a great time to be in an insurance, and it's a great time to grow careers.
Well, we are going to go ahead and post the link to your website in the comments. So if people are interested in applying there, they'll know exactly where to go. So Camille, once again, thank you very much. I so appreciate the generosity of your time, and thank you very much for joining on this episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.